everybody, and welcome back to the Damage Report. Not just any day, though, not just any big news day. It's hashtag Big Fran Wednesdays because we've got Francesca Fiorentini. So big, she couldn't fit in her regular apartment. She's in a new location. We don't know where.
Undisclosed.
Francesca, we're very glad to have you here.
It's good to be here. Thank you so much once again, Dragon Squad, for allowing me into your lair. What's up? Nothing. Wednesdays suck, guys. Wednesdays, there's way too much happening on a Wednesday. I prefer Monday. Yeah. Just a slow jog of a news. Now it's just like, oh God.
Yeah, Monday's mostly BS, honestly. Let's keep it real, okay, at long last, mostly BS. Wednesdays though, oh God, so much news. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Could we just not? We just not do it? Do we have to? I mean, I get that like we have to talk for the next 90 minutes, but Francesca, how much trouble would we actually get in if we did not talk about the news at all in the next 90 minutes?
Well, we'd probably end up talking about something else news adjacent, which would be like, that would disappoint us. We would disappoint ourselves. We're like, we're gonna talk about movies. JK, let's talk about Nina Turner, you know? Yeah.
Can we talk about the new season of the movies that made us? Very much enjoyed it. Anyway, the last episode of John Oliver about housing discrimination. It's pretty good. Go watch it. Anyway, I guess we'll do the news. I suppose people will rebel or whatever. But anyway, thank you everybody for being here. I'm John Adirola. Yeah, I know some people are saying they're dissatisfied that my purple hair is not purple enough. It's like, take it up with my hair, man.
Wait, you've got purple hair?
Department of Follicles. What's that?
What did I miss? What the hell?
You've missed the whole thing. Well, I'll catch you up during a break or something. But anyway, thank you for being here. Please hit the like button, share the stream if you haven't already. We've got a lot of news. Obviously, we're gonna be starting off with yesterday's special election, but eventually we'll be getting into the eviction moratorium, Andrew Cuomo. Chris Cuomo also has problems though. So there's problems for the entire Cuomo plan. Oh my God, has Cuomo come to mean problem? Oh geez, okay, that would be unfortunate for them. But anyway, aside from that, if you don't want to get vaccinated, what can you do? Maybe get a fake arm. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later on too. There's a lot that we're gonna be talking about. And if you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, anything like that, you can send us comments, tweets, super chats, all that, and we'll respond as we go through. With that said, Francesca, are you ready to get this thing going?
Molti Cuomi, tanti Cuomi.
We still have a little bit of time.
Piacere. Okay, sorry, yes.
Anyway, feel free to just do your Greta. Anyway, with that, let's jump right into this. So everybody, prepare yourself. It's not gonna be fun to start off with, but let's jump right into this video.
Fighting for that America here in Ohio and in every state in this country have been on a long justice journey through a desert of despair, indifference, inequality, and racism. Tonight, my friends, we have looked across the promised land, but for this campaign, on this night, we will not cross the river. Tonight, our justice journey continues, and I am proud to continue that journey with each and every one of you.
So that was in what I hope is the most depressing news of the week, but the week's not done. Who knows? The concession speech of Nina Turner, who unfortunately came up short in her bid in the primary for Ohio's 11th district. We're gonna bring up the results here, and you'll see that the establishment-backed, Democratic Party-backed Shontel Brown came up with a few percentage points more. Let's see, it's 4,200 votes. Out of those 7,500, a depressingly thin margin. And Nina Turner, who is obviously a fighter, we've had her on the show any number of times, came up short for reasons that we're gonna talk about. I wanna give you just a little bit more of what she said. Before we get into that though, she said, I'm going to work very hard to ensure that something like this doesn't happen to another progressive candidate again. We didn't lose this race. Evil money manipulated and maligned this election. And there, of course, she is referring to the massive amount of money that came in. The vast majority of it seemingly from one group, the Democrats for majority for Israel. So let's bring this up. You can see they spent damn near $2 million, which I don't need to have gone to grad school to say means that they think Shontel Brown is worth millions of dollars to them over having Nina Turner in that race. So Francesca, we're gonna dive in a couple different angles of this, but what were you thinking yesterday as the results were coming in?
I mean, it is hard to imagine that after leading out and jumping out ahead of the pack, with something like a 30% lead or 30-point lead, that Nina Turner could have lost this. And then you realize just how much, like that phone call that Obama made to all the Democratic primary candidates to concede and back Joe Biden, how the centrist, moneyed Democrats are able to coalesce and support their person, no matter if that person is upholding the status quo, right? And they can do it quickly and swiftly, and they did. And look, when you look at the numbers specifically, it's not that terrible of a defeat. So I have every ounce of hope and belief that Nina Turner is gonna run again, and she's gonna win. But I wanna separate, I think, I have a lot of thoughts. I want to separate sort of the online discourse around this election from what actually happened. And what actually happened is that she ran a really incredible race, that she did not lose by a lot, and that she made centrists incredibly scared and good.
Yeah, 100%. And look, she's obviously pointing out, and I think a lot of people are pointing out the massive amount of money that went into mostly attacking her, a little bit supporting Brown, mostly to attacking her. That's obviously not the only reason. I mean, that we can't be super surprised that happened, as unfortunate as it is. So, if that's possible, you have to be ready to deal with it. And look, certainly she got an assist from a lot of the best, elected progressives in the country, with AOC going to help her out and Bernie Sanders going, and they did what they can, but it's just, this year obviously has not been great for a lot of different reasons. It would have been really awesome to add someone as strong and as passionate as Nina Turner. And I think you're totally right. She will definitely run again, whether in this same race or for some other race. But today, this week, that doesn't help us. And like 2 years from now will come. But I don't want to think about 2 years from now. It's just unfortunate that someone who we've had on to talk about a number of different issues, and we've always gotten really fired up talking with Nina Turner, that she would lose is just, unfortunately, really depressing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is hard to imagine that there would be so much money funneled in from centrist Democrats and from their donors, from groups like the Third Way, who still somehow think that in a Trumpian neo-fascist world, what we have to do is play it safe. That we shouldn't speak to the needs of the people, we should speak to the needs of the Israeli lobby. Like that's where it's at. That's how we're gonna win elections. And the squad has proven that that's absolutely false. These same interests have poured money into campaigns against Jamal Bowman, against Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, against Representative Ilhan Omar. So they have tried, they succeeded in this case. But it is mind-boggling that after all of this time, after the failures of 2016, after the failures of 2018 or 2020, to be honest with you, when it comes to centrist Democrats losing their seats, more so than progressives did, that they would still triple down on trying to defeat someone like Nina Turner, who is speaking to the needs of working class people, everyday Americans at a time of massive income inequality. And I think, to me, the most annoying part of all this is that myth, that lie that keeps on rearing its head, that because Nina Turner will not bend the knee to the Democratic Party, she doesn't actually care about people, and that she would be a bad politician, right? That's the one that gets me so fired up and so angry. And you see some people on the internet and progressives, mostly centrist liberals, who keep on touting this. Nina Turner is toxic, Nina Turner won't work with any. You just had Cori Bush spend 4 nights outside of the Capitol steps in order to protest the eviction moratorium expiring and successfully winning that battle. Yes, I know we're gonna talk about it, but that is what it takes. It takes unconventional, non sort of status quo politicians. It takes those kinds of strategies to actually get the most minimal thing done. And to imagine being scared of someone like Nina Turner because we have to placate the center. What center? There's no more center. It's you and your donors and like the Friends of Israel, right? And like Pharrell Williams when the Friends of Israel hires him for a concert. Like literally, like that's it. It is unclear that actually
did that happen?
Yeah, that happened. It's so that I think is what the most frustrating thing is that like, why are we bending the knee? Why? Tell me why we bend the knee when Democrats can't get anything done.
Yeah, well, and most of the time, don't even try. But yeah, look, the only other thing I want to, people are pointing out, I don't know if we already said this, but that the Cori Bush had run, lost, ran again, and eventually won, and now look, that's paying off, and that's what I want to focus on. So, I'm not some objective person just floating through the ether. I have goals in politics. I have values that I try to see translated into political action. I assume many of you probably don't find my values abhorrent, or you probably wouldn't be here. So if you are like me in some ways, I'm guessing that you are somewhat depressed, perhaps despondent in the same way that I am. I am not necessarily the best person to get you fired up because I can't hide the fact that I'm depressed. But I will say the reason I'm depressed, and I guess maybe this has become controversial recently, is that I think who wins elections matters. Getting the best people in every single election matters. We're gonna demonstrate that in our next block. It didn't have to be Cori Bush, it could have been someone else. And if you think the outcome would have been the same if it wasn't her, I don't know what to tell you at this point. Now, sometimes the establishment, and it comes in different forms. Sometimes the Democratic majority for Israel, sometimes it's Chuck Schumer, whatever. Sometimes they win. They flood an election with money and they win. And we've had devastating losses. Obviously, this is not the first, it will not be the last. Jessica Cisneros lost, and you had Eastman and Bernie's race, like those definitely happened.
Max Morse.
But exactly. Yeah, but on the other hand, we also had AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley and Jamal Bowman, and some of those were sort of surprises. Maybe they were taken by surprise, but others were very much not. Look, the last thing I want is for you to be struck with apathy, to pull yourself out of the system, because the thing is, the people who put $2 million in this race are not getting apathetic. If they'd lost, they wouldn't check out because they care about what happens. They're wrong, they're working for the wrong things, but they're not going anywhere. So we can't afford to. And so whatever might lead you to become apathetic, please do not listen to it. The results of these elections matter. They are really difficult, often incredibly depressing, but we can win. We have won. We will win in the future. But the only way that it's gonna happen is if we stay invested, and not just in following the news. As I've always said, if the end result of you watching this show is you watching this show, then this show is pointless. It honestly is. So there's so much more important stuff out there. We try to focus on it. We try to bring people on who are doing it. I need a little bit of time to sort of get revved back up for everything, but I hope that you can recover at least as quickly. Anyway, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, and I 100%, John, and I just like commend your honesty, and it's hard to be, I think we're sort of taught to be more like, let's be distanced and analytical only. And I love that the damage report isn't that show, that we can be fired up, we can be honest, we can be disappointed, and we can be nuanced and thoughtful with everything that we say. And I'll just say that, like, look, you just wait when COVID's over. Because you think about the number of like how many more volunteers might have come to Ohio, right? How many more volunteers to get, what was it, 2,500, whatever, however many more votes it was. Not very many.
Yeah.
To get those votes out, like 50 more volunteers knocking on doors, doing that work that AOC did every single day, right? Imagine if AOC had run during a pandemic. It's not easy. And during a special election, special election, pandemic, these are, again, unprecedented times. So yes, absolutely. It's not just about being apathetic, it's being cynical to the point where you think cynicism is a smart analysis, and it's not. The hard work is where it's at, so.
Yeah, cynicism doesn't help anybody except potentially grifters who can feed off of it. That's it. And we're not, we watch that, we check that on the right. We cannot afford to have it, come home. Anyway, with that though, there is a lot of other news to get to, including news that we've already alluded to. So we're gonna take a short break. When we come back, we're gonna jump into what you can get when you do have the right people in office. So we'll have that for you after this. Okay, everybody, let's turn to something completely different. We entered the weekend incredibly disappointed, but not surprised by the Biden administration and the Democrats and the CDC allowing the eviction moratorium to expire. And as that was happening, a protest developed. Cori Bush and others refusing to leave, sitting on the steps, sleeping on the steps of the Capitol, trying to draw attention to the fact that millions of Americans' lives were due to be ruined, and almost immediately. And what do you know? They said it couldn't be done. Some of them said it shouldn't be done. But the protest apparently worked, because days after a national eviction moratorium expired, the Biden administration on Tuesday issued a new, more limited freeze that remains in effect through October 3rd. Like the previous order, the 2-month moratorium issued on Tuesday comes from the CDC, a weird point which we're gonna return to. The new ban on evictions covers parts of the United States that are experiencing what the CDC calls substantial and high spread of the coronavirus. As of Tuesday afternoon, that's the vast majority of US counties. And the order, which cites the rise of the Delta variant, says without this order, evictions in these higher transmission areas would likely exacerbate the increase in cases. So in a little bit, we're gonna turn to Cori Bush and those who made this available. Right now, I wanna talk about the actual substance of it. So I do find it a bit ironic that this is limited in that it's only gonna be in the areas that have a lot of COVID. So in a way, thank you, Tucker Carlson. Thank you, Ben Shapiro. Thank you to all of the right wingers who have caused this pandemic to be as horrible as it is more than a year in, because at least now that means a lot of people will be in areas where the eviction moratorium continues. But that said, Francesca, there are some places it won't stretch to, and it only lasts for 2 months, and it's still just an eviction moratorium. It's not a clearing of rental debt. So with all of those acknowledgments, what do you think about this?
I mean, I think it's incredibly important, and it shows the power that Congress people have, even outside of the actual procedures and processes. Again, I think unconventional thinking and more of an inside-outside strategy, even for people who are Congress people, works. So Cori Bush proved that. That being said, it is a very small victory. It is just 2 months. It's still gonna get maybe battled in the Supreme Court, but who cares? Because people will be in their homes. They'll have 2 more months to be able to try to find work, to make rent, to get states and local governments to dole out the rental assistance money that has been promised and that was, I believe, in the American Rescue Plan signed by Joe Biden. So get that money out there. People need that money ASAP. But yeah, it is crucial. It's sad that it took this much work and effort and sort of pots and pan clanging to get something that was so minor that Biden could have done and should have done when he saw that there were 2 days left in Congress, before recess, and it was like, all right, this is not gonna happen. Let's just do this, because clearly states are having trouble. And yeah, the Delta variant is spreading and will continue to spread. But of course, fascism loves Delta. Like I love how you're like, oh yeah, Tucker, thank you, Tucker Carlson, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Fascism loves inequality, loves desperation, because the more desperate people are, the more they'll be like, yeah. An authoritarian, totalitarian dictatorship is totally fine with me. Let's go for it. Anything to make the trains run on time, stability, blah, 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 blah. Just do it. And so we can't forget that like destitution is their goal.
Exactly, and they certainly do not mind it. But before we move to more of an acknowledgement of all the great work that you were just talking about there is one more point which I guess is just me being stupid. I don't know. I guess I missed something. I read a lot about this and I haven't yet figured it out. So if you recall, I think it was Friday when we were incredibly critical of the fact that the Biden administration had waited until like the last minute to say, hey, maybe we should do something. And then they seem to say, well, it's really about Congress. I mean, the Supreme Court said Congress had to do it, so it's really about Congress. And then Nancy Pelosi said, well, it's really about the CDC, and then the CDC wouldn't answer the phone call. It was all this like passing the buck or whatever. So now we've got the extension, and it's the CDC that's doing it. The Biden administration said the CDC is doing this. Okay, so Gene Sperling, who oversees the White House's rollout of COVID-19 relief, told reporters on Monday that Biden had quadruple checked whether he had the legal grounds to extend the moratorium unilaterally, but said ultimately his hands were tied by a Supreme Court ruling that blocked the CDC from extending its past moratorium beyond the end of July. A last-minute effort by Congress to extend the ban failed. Sperling pushed back against criticism from Democrats on Capitol Hill, who argued the White House should have acted sooner in extending the earlier moratorium. He said the Supreme Court made it clear that congressional authorization was needed on the matter. So he said, no, we checked, we double dog checked, we can't do it. It needs congressional authorization. And so Congress tried, I guess. It was like so fast I didn't even notice it. It didn't work. And then the CDC just did it. But they said that it couldn't. I don't understand what's going on. So why did we have to go through this rigmarole for 72 hours if they could have just unilaterally done it?
Because
what am I missing?
You're missing that no one was going to notice, and that no one in power was going to notice, and that they were banking on that, right? And that no reporter was gonna go to the front lines of evictions and very few, and talk to them, at least not on national news. So you fly under the radar, oops, we tried, ooh, we passed the buck, I get, but it's done. And then along comes Cori Bush, right? And what began as a stunt, which look, sometimes stunts lead to things, right? And it was like, oh no, now there's attention on this thing that we sort of deliberately forgot to do. And now we can do it. And suddenly we found a backbone. But it is so sad that no Democratic leader, not the president, not the Speaker of the House, is able to stand up and say, no, we're not gonna let people be thrown out onto the streets during a pandemic. And damn it, I will go to the Supreme Court with this. I stand by this because these are my values. And then you go back to Trump, right? And you're like, oh, I know his values because he, spewed them all over the place through executive orders that were then litigated to death, right? And some of them still went through. Some of them were still enacted by the Department of Homeland Security. Parents and children were still separated at the border, even though it was illegal. Like all of the things that was like, at least he had a plan and moral and immoral, like a lack of morals. Do you know what I'm saying? It was like, oh, there it is. Whereas Biden, it's like, well, we could, you could, just stand for something, buddy.
Or just try.
Just try.
If the Republicans want to sue you to stop it, make them. You be the one that's protecting people from being thrown out on the street during a pandemic. Let them be the ones trying to make sure they get booted, okay? And maybe you win, maybe you don't win. I think that you're completely underestimating the odds that you do win. But either way, at least you're the one who is trying. What are you there for if not to at least try? You're not there to quadruple check, to just look at papers and be like, well, I guess everybody's screwed. Try, you're the president, okay? People will appreciate it at least if you give some effort. Now that said, I do want to turn to giving credit where credit is due because we very rarely have a good reason to do so, but we're about to. So, thank you to Cori Bush and others for getting us, at the very least, this extension of the eviction moratorium. We're gonna go through the people who were gleefully mocking Cori Bush and others for what they're doing, coming from all different directions somehow, but Cori Bush put it on the line, did what she thought she had to do, and now, at least for a couple of months, millions of people who would be suffering today will not be, and that matters. So I want to give a little bit of time to what they had to say about this. So first, here is Cori Bush responding to the announcement.
fight, we'll morph it into, that's what a movement is. You move with whatever the change that's needed. And so we'll move with that. And like Representative Jones said, we have another fight coming up, and we want to be on the, we're already gearing up for that. And let me say, activists are in Congress. So let's be clear. Yeah. Activists are in Congress. So expect for things to be different than what maybe people are used to. We don't have the same eyes, we don't have the same background or the same agenda as some others.
Yes.
Yes, and I don't know if I was audible there, but we saw Ryan Grimm was right nearby. Ryan Grimm gets to do all the fun stuff anyway. But that was Cori Bush. Totally right. It is a movement. They get this little victory, as we acknowledged. It is a big victory for the people who would be on the street right now. It is a small victory in comparison to what actually needs to be done to permanently stop this problem, but it is still something. And now they need to go to other fights. But we have a little bit more. Here is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I think what the message here today is clear, is that everyday people can make a change. We can always demand better, and we can push ourselves to be better. And that should not be taboo in our democracy.
Exactly. And I'm glad that she's saying that, because there's a lot of people who do not want you to do that. So no, it does sometimes, it doesn't mean every time, doesn't mean that you'll always win, but you can't win if you don't play. I heard that somewhere once. And Cori Bush and others, Jamal Bowman and others deserve credit for that.
Yeah, and it's more than that. It's playing by rules that are broken, and Congress people now refusing to play by those broken rules, refusing to play by the rules that have doomed working people, people of color, women in this country for decades. And so if it takes a little rule breaking, or hey, just staying up and sleeping on the Capitol steps to prevent people from being evicted for 2 months, so be it. But I mean this, look, this is what happens when you elect people who are not just activists, who don't just understand how movements work, how, causing a scene, getting some press on you, how that works, but understanding what homelessness is like, right? That Cori Bush said that she lived in her car for a time. Mm-hmm. You cannot underestimate having that kind of diversity in our elected officials, and among, whether it's local officials or on a federal level, having people who understand what it is to be homeless, to be gay, to be seeking an abortion, to be all these things, to have real lived experiences, to have been working for minimum wage. That means a lot. And I'm not talking about, oh God, why am I forgetting? Paul Ryan being like, well, I worked at McDonald's for a summer. No, buddy, no. Okay.
Paul Ryan impression ever.
I worked at McDonald's. Anyway, let's take away Social Security. Like, I just. So insane. This is what happens when you elect those kinds of folks, and that's why it matters. And look, again, going up, and this week with Nina Turner losing her election, it's not over. It is not over. And my God, imagine being scared of people like Cori Bush. Imagine being scared of people like Nina Turner. And I just want to say, stop reading the news just for a few days, because the news has terrible takes on what this is. They think it means, oh, well, people just don't like firebrands. And this is really, the squad is basically Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. No, it's not. No, it's not. In no way is it like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz at all. Those people are fighting for anti-vax QAnon pedophiles, and these folks are fighting to keep people in their homes. So stop equating them. Stop saying that just because people are loud and out front and doing it like press events, that they're somehow the same thing. They're not.
Yeah. There's nothing I find more frustrating than that. When of course the squad is fighting for the bases of both of those sides. That's a major difference, that one is completely ignoring the problems of the people they say sent them there. The other is actually fighting. By the way, I noticed this stat. Rent has increased 11.4% so far this year.
Jesus.
Obviously making it very easy to catch up on all the payments that are thankfully being delayed, but will still be expected. And by the way, AOC, right after that video, acknowledged the point of this is to stop people from being thrown out of their house and give time, ideally, for the states and the federal government to get out the funds that they already have. They've already been given the funds. They just haven't made them available to help clear people's debt. More aid needs to be provided and all that, but there is at least some, and it needs to be distributed. Now, really fast, I want to show you a video, mostly to try to make Francesca uncomfortable, because you had politically uncomfortable. So you had Cori Bush, you had AOC, you had Jamal Bowman, Bernie Sanders was out there, trying to get people to pay attention to this protest. There was another senator actually who was, and you'll see that here.
Hey, you are great. You did it. One person, really. Woo! Congratulations. I'm so proud and happy.
They're walking to the step.
Okay, there's actually another video where AOC is next to Cori Bush there, and he says, "You two are fabulous." And Francesca, what do you think?
I love the arms. Yay! I cannot raise. You got to give me a full screen here. Good
No,
job.
not that one. Anyway, it's okay. So Schumer has been definitely trying over the past year or so to ally himself with people on certain things. He's been saying he wants $50,000 in student loan debt cleared. He occasionally, he was calling for the eviction moratorium to be extended. Of course, if he was an integral part of this process, that the how of that has not been made clear to me. But he is out there supporting them. So I don't know, how much are we supposed to be affected by that? How much credit are we supposed to provide based on that?
I have to say, I don't want to play cynical on this. I think it's great to see Cori Bush and Chuck Schumer hugging is good. That is good for us. And it's less for progressives who are like, yeah, we know we have to work with your asses. It's for centrists who are like, look, here is an incoming freshman congresswoman who has, staged this, protest essentially, and now being congratulated by Schumer, who's obviously running completely scared for his own seat. So it was like, I must do this hug. But I still think it is good, to show that, look, people want to work together. She's not shunting a hug from Schumer. And so stop saying that progressives don't want to work with anybody. That's utter BS. But yeah, so good. Make them scared, make them hug, make them come out. Obviously, it was not as accessible of a protest for Schumi. He needs kind of like the full recliner if he's gonna sleep. When he goes camping, which I feel like he camped in 1965, and he was like 30 at the time or whatever. It was like a little too many rocks on his back, and he was like, never again. So he was in the Poconos, was a whole thing. He smoked grass. The point is this: you gotta make it more Schumer friendly. Get the full recliners out there. Get some pads.
Next time. Really fast. I was gonna make a big thing out of this. I'm not. I just want to show you these two pictures before we move on. I love the people who got out their bad takes on this just in time to be proven how bad those takes were. So Ben Shapiro tweeted about her protest. These sorts of stunts are so unbelievably off-putting and stupid. Yeah, it was so stupid. It was off-putting. I'm put off by you trying to stop people from getting kicked out on the streets. Ben Shapiro, a guy who's had such a difficult life. He's spent so much time unhoused himself. He's speaking for the forgotten conservatives, those who are suffering economically. And he just thinks a woman trying to stop people from being kicked on the street is off-putting.
I will have you know that when we were moving into our home and we were having it redecorated, that my wife we had to rent a hotel, and it was a 3-star hotel, and we had to stay there for a week. Okay, so I understand homelessness, because when renovations happen on your first home, you have to stay in a hotel, and it was a Comfort Inn, and let me say, it was not comfortable.
It was not. That was good. That was better than your Paul Ryan. And then finally, and I believe, I could be wrong about the numbers here, I read that this was released on Twitter 3 minutes before the announcement that the eviction moratorium was being extended. I could be wrong, but that's what I read. It's an editorial on the platform. Cori Bush's antics generate publicity, but they won't change political reality. No one has been more wrong, more proximally to their wrongness than the person who wrote that op-ed. Anyway, that's wrong. I wrote an op-ed like 15 months ago about how Fox News was gonna get people killed by denying the reality of COVID and telling people not to take it seriously. I was proven wrong, I apologize. Anyway, that said, let's jump to one more really fast story. The governor of Missouri, Mike Parson, has pardoned the chuckleheads that you're seeing over here, the McCloskeys, people who you only know exist because of their pointing loaded weapons at peaceful protesters that had no interest in them. That's not the only reason, also their choice of fashion definitely made the thing go viral. But yeah, Mark McCloskey, who pleaded guilty in June to misdemeanor 4th degree assault and was fined $750. Patricia McCloskey, who pleaded guilty to misdemeanor harassment and was fined $2,000. Why was she fined more? Anyway, they were both pardoned, which I guess might mean that they can own guns again, unfortunately. Or I guess maybe just those guns were taken. But in any event, Francesca, they have now been pardoned. I thought it was important that we get to this story today because not only is that awful, why are they being pardoned? They did the things that they were convicted for. They're not apologetic. They're not in any way apologetic, but also they were pointing guns at protesters in St. Louis, calling to mind, at the same time, Cori Bush, one of those protesters, is getting amazing things done in DC. We have these two sides of the movement. One side protecting people from being kicked down the street, the other Republicans trying to protect their Republican Senate candidates because Mark McCloskey is of course running for the Republican nomination. It seems an insane use of the power of a governor, but it happened and it can't be stopped.
Well, they can't perform at children's birthday parties with the charge hanging over their heads. So, I think the pardon was, is beneficial to all MAGA birthday parties to spread joy everywhere. Because yes, you can rent them. There are lookalikes for sure, but they're not as good as the real thing. I've seen them. Obviously, Mrs. McCloskey was charged for more because she was holding her weapon correctly. Whereas like Mr. McCloskey was like, nah, it wouldn't have ended well for him anyway. But look at this iconic duo.
I believe that form is called the I'm a little teapot.
Yeah.
The crook elbow. Oh my God. The only reason you know who they are is they were scared enough and racist enough to threaten to murder people who were walking by their house. That is the only reason.
I'm a little racist, hear me shout. Look at the museum of a home they have. I'm sorry, people, I need to scream this. Look at the museum of a home. We see this footage way too close up too often. That is a giant. Nobody's looking for you. Nobody cares. Stay home, eat your muesli, and yell at Fox News. It's all you're good for, McCloskeys. Stop it. We know you had to put on pants to come outside. Nobody cares about you. Nobody was looking for you. Nobody was outside of your house. Nobody was threatening you. Nobody was armed. But yeah, of course they're gonna. What is? Look, John, if that situation had gone worse, if they had actually fired a gun, they would have still been pardoned. They would still have gone down the same way.
They'd be perhaps even bigger martyrs than they are now. Wait, can we go back to that footage for 1 second? Because something was just brought to my attention that I did not notice before. Can we bring up the footage of them? Are they both barefoot? Oh my God, they're both barefoot.
Yeah.
No, you are not that scared if you're barefoot. You had time for khakis, but not for shoes. You're relaxed, dude. That's what you are. At least throw your boat shoes on, man. Anyway.
Yeah, they slip on. Get the moccasins on. What's wrong with you?
Right in there. You have your butler slip it on you. Anyway, with that, we are gonna have to take our second break. But when we come back, the Cuomos. Oh, they've done it again. We'll be breaking down how, why, and what might happen after this. Okay, let's jump into this next one. Despite all that's been coming out, Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York is refusing to resign. after the Attorney General Letitia James put out a report saying that he sexually harassed 11 different women. Now, that means that they corroborated the accounts of 11 different women. It does not mean that it is limited to 11 women, but that is so far what they've looked into. Now, he is not resigning despite those details, despite, let's see, all of the Congress people, the senators, the governors from surrounding states, and the president of the United States as well, all calling on him to resign. But so far, he isn't doing it. Now, we're gonna get into the details of what the report found in just a sec, but did you expect that once the report was out, as you were reading it, that he would resign? Should we be surprised?
No, we should not be
Some
surprised.
Democrats have resigned. Al Franken resigned.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats who are susceptible to shame and just and facts, I think, resign. Those are the ones who resign. But Cuomo, we knew he was gonna triple double. Like, this is the way Cuomo operates. It is part and parcel of like kind of running a reign of terror, corrupt governorship, and bullying his enemies. And this is no different. And man, I have a lot of thoughts about the defense that he has lobbied in his favor. I know we're gonna get to it all, but let me just say that these cases are so far from what he is saying. He's saying, I love to kiss people. I kiss people on the hand. I kiss people on the cheek. Sometimes I kiss people on the mouth. Whoops, did I say mouth? I meant other cheek. Like, it is very offensive to have him, for me as an Italian, for him to equate the like being a little friendly and saying ciao bella and doing all these things with like, he's like, maybe it is cultural. You are just an anti-Italian. Like, come on, dude. We're really like Silvio from Sopranos here.
That's true.
We're gonna go into it.
I want to put an image. Yeah, so why don't we go to this first video? Understanding, we're gonna give you the details of what he did. This was put out by him as a defense. Let's take a look.
I do it with everyone, black and white, young and old, straight and LGBTQ, powerful people, friends, strangers, people who I meet on the street.
Now look, I don't like that he's sort of trying to use Italianness as, I don't like it any more than you do, Francesca. But of course, the gaslighting there is that, like, pinching someone's cheek, that is not what the report is about. Like, he is attempting to defend himself by making it about something totally different. Al Gore was not testifying against you. That's not the thing. And it is not just a hug. It is not just anything. In fact, let's go into a little bit of what they found. So investigators wrote that Cuomo sexually harassed a number of current and former New York State employees by, among other things, engaging in unwelcome and non-consensual touching, as well as making numerous offensive comments of a suggestive and sexual nature that created a hostile work environment for women. So that's a little bit broad. What do they mean? I'm assuming this is what was pictured in the shots of him with Clinton and Gore. I guess he was saying to them, as he was to his aide Charlotte Bennett, that it would be better for her to get a tattoo on her butt instead of her shoulder, saying so that people would not see it if she were wearing a dress. He made other inappropriate comments to her, such as asking if she had piercings anywhere other than her ears, a discussion Bennett described as painfully awkward. So look, that is what we're talking about here. It is not just that he hugged someone. It's not just that he was Biden-y. There was a dozen women who were saying this guy had a pervasive atmosphere of sexual harassment, attempts to sleep with people, all of that. It is an entire culture that was around him, that he enlisted people in his defense for, which we'll get to a little bit more of that in a bit. But trying to make it seem as if, well, I kissed a congressman, are you saying I should be locked up over that? Is willfully ignoring the actual content of the investigation.
Yes, I have a background leaf blower and I am so sad because I really want to talk about this. But yeah, oh good. No, it it's the height of cynicism for him to use like, I do gestures, I kiss young and old, black and white, as long as they're hot. I mean, wait, did I say hot? Like I'm waiting for him to just, it is so awful that he's equating this with actual sexual harassment, targeted campaigns, getting his aides to go after women who say, the governor likes you, the governor's got a crush on you, all that kind of stuff. It's just disgusting, right? And then the other thing he's doing is not just blaming the like Italianness or whatever, but he's also trying to appeal and walk that line that a lot of people walk when it comes to being accused of sexual harassment, where they say, they're basically trying to do the gray zone area. Like this was a misunderstanding, that it was only a misunderstanding. And I'm gonna lean into the fact that there is a gray zone area. And hey, it's the same thing where it's like, hey, you can't even smile at a woman anymore. You can't even, like touch a woman's shoulder anymore. And he knows that that is a trigger and that a lot of men have echoed the exact same thing. And so he's using that by saying, you can't even, like shake a woman's hand anymore. And that is such cynical BS. We know that it was way more than that.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right. It's a terrible defense. I don't think it's going to convince people, at least in terms of the elected officials of his office. That said, a Marist poll from last night asked people, should he resign? 59% said he should resign. 52% of Democrats, 77% of Republicans, 72% of unaffiliated voters. So a narrow majority of Democrats are like, yeah, that's unacceptable. 59% overall say it. Now that said, I want to turn to one other part of this. Chris Cuomo is hardly the Cuomo most under the gun this week. But that said, the fact that Chris Cuomo is in the news as his brother is facing, all of what's come out in that investigation is leaving a lot of people to wonder, how is this going to work? So we already knew from the past that he had been sort of advising his brother while doing, his show and everything. And so Francesca, like, I don't believe he talked about it on his program last night. He did a handoff to Don Lemon, who immediately went in on Andrew Cuomo. So can they just have one of their main hosts just not talk about it? It seems like a really weird thing to try to continue.
And yet it's not new. I mean, look, this is the revolving door between politicians and DC and mainstream news is disgusting. There is an incredible amount of nepotism in our industry. Sadly, far too much, right? And there's a huge conflict of interest. Like, look, John McCain did pass away, but when he was alive, Meghan McCain was on The View, right? And like, what if he was still in office? What if he was like, I mean, it's endless what happens. So yeah, like Chris Cuomo being on CNN primetime, they're not gonna fire him. There is no way they're firing Chris Cuomo because the media does not see that as a conflict of interest. They see it as a boost. They want that. They want the last name, just like politicians want the last name, right? You got a Clinton, you got a Trump, any last name, they are into it, right? McCain, whatever, right? We know we haven't seen the last of Meghan, damn it. But like, it is not a lot to ask, and yet the media continues to fail, and it's just so egregious. Look, are we that desperate for leadership in this country that we're above, criticizing Andrew Cuomo and Chris Cuomo, and anyone who like acknowledges reality, we're like, oh my God, are you our father? Are you our father now that you acknowledge there's COVID deaths? Oh, you hid a bunch of COVID deaths? Oh, you sent old people back to the nursing homes. Cool, yeah. Right?
Yeah, it's definitely not a good week for the Cuomo sexuals.
Oh God.
Or the media who had so much fun with that. Yeah, I guess what they're gonna do is just not have him talk about it. That's better than him talking about it in a way just designed to protect his brother, but I don't know. It still seems really weird and really icky, and I don't think that I'm the only person. I think a lot of people in New York probably gonna have a bit of a problem with that. So we'll see how they manage it. I assume they will manage it by not doing anything, just not managing it at all. But of course, we'll have to wait and see. In any event, okay, we are running really low on time. I understand that. So to our audience on the linear platforms, thank you as always for being here. But if you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, the members app, or anything like that, we've got a lot more news. We're gonna be talking about one way you can get out of taking your vaccine. It's just pretending that something is your arm that is not. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? But we've got a lot of other news besides, so we'll see you in just a few. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Adarola. I'll see you soon.